So, how the world works. Pulled out his graphics. Well, there was something he did that was somewhat deceptive, and that was when portraying the deficits, he used trillions of dollars. Now, the more accurate way to portray it is in percent of GDP. Now, when you do that, the deficits out perhaps 8 years from now are about what we had during the Bush years. Okay, now clearly that is much harder than I would like to see. I would like to see much lower deficits, and there are ways of getting there. Okay, that don't necessarily mean jettisoning our social programs. One of the primary things we have to do, and one of the biggest expenses in the budget, is Medicare and health care. We have to reform health care. It's absolutely crucial and vital. We spend way too much on health care for inferior quality. All right? And the health insurance companies are just growing rich and declining coverage. All right? It's all a sham. It's got to be reformed. And whether or not we go to something like single payer or nationalized, like they have in Britain and France, we need to do something to make sure the insurance companies aren't bilking us and giving us nothing in return except red tape. Okay, so that's one thing. Cutting the defense spending. Oh, most excellent idea. I agree with that. I think perhaps we spend a little too much time being the global policeman. I think we spend way too much in defense, much to our detriment. We don't need the military we have. That's mostly just feeding pet projects and stuff that's meant to wage a war that can't exist in this day and age. All right, we are making such strides with diplomacy and other things. Our real threats come from failed states, small failed states, not from large entities like Europe or even Russia, for that matter. Okay, and China certainly seems to be. we're becoming more and more joined at the hip with China. Okay, so it doesn't seem likely that we're going to have major conflicts or large conventional wars. It's going to be small conflicts, and we need to change our military and the amount we spend for it to be more appropriate, so that we can compete economically with these other countries around the globe. So there's also the question of how much interest we pay on servicing the debt. Certainly, were we to nationalize the Federal Reserve, we could potentially stop paying interest on that altogether. Right? There are a number of ways of cutting the budget without cutting the social safety net, Social Security, Medicaid, and the other things that provide some measure of security, some measure of insurance, if you will, against the calamities in life, unemployment, that sort of thing. These things are there to provide economic security to prevent people from ruin when bad things happen to them. Okay, and it's necessary. It's absolutely necessary. The thing I have against your video is, number one, you portray the budget deficit as being much worse than what is actually going to be, okay, by using dollars instead of percent of GDP. And then the second thing you go on to do is you pick out Social Security and Medicare and those programs as being the only place where we can cut spending. There are lots of places we can cut spending. Defense, servicing the debt, and we can certainly cut down the cost of Medicaid by reducing health care in general. There are plenty of places where we can increase the productivity of Americans so that they have more taxes. There's a lot of things we can do as a country to improve the economy, to increase revenues. And none of that was even hinted at. It's just bang, bang. Look at these deficits in trillions of dollars, and look, here's the only thing we can cut. I don't buy any of that. Okay. Now, the projected deficit is much worse than I'd like to see it, and there certainly should provide some motivation for finding ways to improve productivity and to cut down spending, particularly healthcare. All right, that's one of the major concerns. So that's it for now.